The first time Camille Duval met Adrien Moreau, he spilled espresso on her thesis. Not just any thesis. Her thesis. The one that got her shortlisted for the final round of the prestigious Sorbonne full scholarship. It was printed, bound, and waiting for the final professor's signature when a tall, annoyingly good-looking guy in a tweed coat came barreling around the corner of the university cafe with 2 espressos and the grace of a drunk swan. Hot liquid. Ink bleeding. Screaming, hers. Apologies, his. Awkward silence. Are you, he started. You're dead to me, Camille said, lifting what remained of her paper like it was the remains of a fallen soldier. He blinked. Okay. But do I get points for most dramatic academic murder? Camille didn't laugh. She walked away. But she would never forget his name. Adrien Moreau. The espresso assassin. Fast forward 3 months. And guess who showed up as the only other finalist for the Sorbonne scholarship? The Grand Hall of Université de Lumière in central Paris was buzzing with spring energy. The courtyard outside was bursting with cherry blossoms and caffeinated students. Inside, 2 names were written in bold on the announcement board. Finalists. Sorbonne full scholarship. Black small square Camille Duval. Black small square Adrien Moreau. Camille stared at the board, her jaw set. She had worked for this since her first day at the university. Late nights, weekend labs, reading until her eyes burned. There was no way he would take this from her. Adrien appeared next to her like a shadow summoned by pure annoyance. He sipped from his thermos and raised an eyebrow. Bonjour, Duval. Still alive. Pity. He grinned. I heard they're choosing based on charm. You should be very worried. She rolled her eyes and stalked off, but not before hearing him call after her. Don't worry, I'll dedicate my victory to your thesis. May it rest in peace. Their rivalry became university legend. They were seen arguing over algorithms in the library, whisper-yelling in lectures, and once famously fighting over who got to use the last clean beaker in chem lab. The beaker exploded. The lab professor banned them from sharing a room for a month. But the weirdest part, they never stopped helping each other. Camille found herself secretly impressed when Adrien built a quantum model from scratch. Adrien, in turn, caught her slipping extra references into his paper drafts when he forgot his citations. They would insult each other during lunch and send helpful academic papers to each other by midnight. Academic hate mail, he called it. Just saving your GPA, she replied. One rainy evening, as Paris shivered under a spring drizzle, they ended up stuck in the same campus shelter. I swear the universe hates us, Camille muttered, her umbrella dripping. Or ships us, Adrien said, looking entirely too smug. Ugh, what does that even mean? It means maybe the only reason I'm still competing is because I know you're on the other side of the finish line. She looked at him then, really looked, and for the first time her heart did that stupid thud thing she'd only read about in books. Before she could say anything, the rain stopped. So did her common sense. They never spoke about the moment. Not out loud. But after that day, their arguments softened. Their glances lingered. And when they passed each other in the halls, there was always that unspoken what-if dancing in the air between them. What neither of them knew was that the past held a secret. One of them had already taken something from the other, without even knowing it. And the scholarship, that was just the beginning. Professor Leonard's office was legendary. Not for its academic prestige, though the man had 3 doctorates and a signed photo with Stephen Hawking, but for the sheer chaos of the space. There were stacks of ancient philosophy texts balanced on calculus textbooks, coffee mugs that seemed to multiply like rabbits, and a cat named Schrödinger, who may or may not have been alive depending on the day. Camille stood stiffly beside Adrien as they waited to be called in for the final presentation round of the Sorbonne scholarship. Stop bouncing your leg, she hissed at him without looking. I'm not bouncing, I'm channeling intellectual readiness, Adrien replied, smirking. Try it sometime. Might improve your resting murder face. You're seconds away from becoming a Schrödinger experiment. He grinned. Is that a threat or a flirtation? Threat. Shame. I was getting excited. Before Camille could throw a chair at him, tempting, the door creaked open and Professor Leonard emerged, holding a teacup in one hand and a paper crane in the other. Duval, Moreau, come in. You'll be presenting together. They both froze. Excuse me, Camille said sharply. Together, Adrien echoed, horrified. The professor smiled like he enjoyed emotional violence. You'll each have 30 minutes to present your research, but I want you to critique each other afterward. Consider it an academic duel. Think of it as sparring. With data. Camille narrowed her eyes. You mean we have to help each other win? Professor Leonard sipped his tea. I mean, sometimes excellence is sharpened by friction. And frankly, you two are the most interesting thing to happen to this university since someone tried to 3D print a croissant. Their presentations were the next morning. Adrien suggested they practice together. Practice what? Killing each other faster. Camille asked, arms folded. Critiquing. If I'm going to destroy you publicly, I want to at least be fair about it. Chivalrous of you. They ended up in the old chemistry lab after hours, seated at opposite ends of a long workbench. Camille's laptop was open, full of equations on environmental modeling and predictive data systems. Adrien's screen showed AI-generated simulations for climate policy forecasting. For a moment they were silent. You're using a third-order polynomial for predictive trends? She asked, peeking at his code. He shrugged. It's elegant. It's lazy. Your model's beautiful, but it collapses after 10 years. It doesn't scale. Camille frowned. You read my thesis. Adrien didn't look up. Twice. Something fluttered uncomfortably in her chest. They debated, argued, adjusted each other's code. Camille cracked a sarcastic joke about Adrien's variable names. You named this one Doom Factor? Really? And he retorted with a limerick about her obsession with citations. At some point they ordered takeout. At some later point she realized she was laughing. Genuinely. They worked until 2 a.m. When Camille finally yawned, stretching with a sigh, Adrien passed her a paper napkin he'd doodled on during her presentation. It was a tiny sketch. 2 stick figures at war, one wielding a textbook, the other a beaker. Between them, a peace treaty made out of a coffee cup. Underneath he'd written, Battle of Brains. Truce pending. She smiled in spite of herself. This is ridiculous. I'm ridiculous, he agreed. But you like it. Camille tried to glare. Came out more like a blush. The day of the presentations arrived under a cloudy Parisian sky. The grand hall was packed. Professors, peers, a few overinvested parents. Adrien presented first. He was charming, confident, occasionally insufferable, but brilliant. When he spoke about policy implications, people leaned forward. When he cracked a joke about neural networks acting like toddlers, they laughed. Camille hated how good he was. Then it was her turn. She stood tall, wearing her lucky black blazer, and delivered a flawless 30 minutes on climate modeling precision and machine learning hybrid analysis. She didn't just impress the room, she commanded it. When she was done, Adrien stood to critique her. He was supposed to tear it apart. He didn't. Camille's model is, no exaggeration, the most efficient predictive tool I've seen at a university level. It's not just technically accurate. It's visionary. And if you don't give her this scholarship, I'll personally steal her algorithm and become a tech billionaire just to prove you wrong. A stunned silence followed. Camille stared at him, jaw slightly open. Later, during her turn to critique his work, she cleared her throat and said, Adrien's framework is chaotic, arrogant, and fundamentally flawed. The room gasped. She smiled faintly. But like most chaotic, arrogant geniuses, he stumbles into brilliance by accident. It's infuriating. And effective. And you'd be stupid not to fund his research. There was a moment of stunned silence. Then applause. Loud. Long, thunderous. They didn't win. Not immediately. The scholarship committee asked for a few days to deliberate. In the meantime, Camille found herself thinking about Adrien more than she should. He was charming, infuriating, smarter than she'd admitted. And when he looked at her now, it wasn't with rivalry. It was with something warmer. One afternoon, on the old stone steps overlooking the Seine, he sat beside her and nudged her knee gently. "You know, we're really bad at hating each other." "Tragic," she said, sipping coffee. "We should consider other career paths. Maybe romance." A choke. "Adrien." "I'm kidding," he said too quickly. "Unless you're not." Camille's heart fluttered. She said nothing, just leaned her head lightly against his shoulder. But everything changed that night. She was digging through old administrative emails when she found it, an archived message from a faculty advisor. 2 years ago. A different competition. Same prize. Camille had been the alternate. The real winner had dropped out at the last minute because of a delay in submission caused by a departmental mix-up. One that involved a misplaced file. Corrupted hard drive. A file that belonged to Adrien Moreau. And her heart shattered just a little. He had lost a scholarship because of her. She never knew. And now she had a choice to make. One that would change everything. It rained in Paris the next morning. Proper rain, not the artistic drizzle tourists romanticized. It fell in sheets against the Gothic windows of the university library where Camille sat. Her laptop open but untouched, a single sentence on the screen blinking back at her like a warning. "You were selected as the alternate candidate due to the disqualification of Adrien Moreau's application. File corruption. Late submission. Administrative error. We apologize for the confusion." Camille had read that sentence 10 times. She still felt the same thing. A hollow, twisting ache in her chest. How could she not have known? How could no one have told him? How was she supposed to sit beside Adrien now, knowing he had once lost everything because of a mistake she benefited from? And yet, somehow, the worst part wasn't guilt. It was the fact that she liked him now. Liked him more than she was willing to admit. Liked the way he always had a comeback, even when he didn't need one. The way his brow furrowed when he focused. The way he'd called her brilliant and meant it. The way he looked at her now, not like a rival but like an equal partner. She closed the laptop, stood up too fast, and knocked over a stack of books. But a few students glanced over. One gave her a thumbs up in solidarity. Camille gave a weak smile and bolted from the library. That night, Adrien called her. "I have a surprise," he said. Camille's heart leapt, and she hated that it did. "What kind?" "The kind that involves pastries and a rooftop." "I don't do heights," she said automatically. "You do sarcasm. It balances out." Against her better judgment she went. Adrien met her at the bottom of an old apartment building in the Latin Quarter, holding a paper bag in one hand and a flashlight in the other. "You live here?" she asked, skeptical. "No, but my cousin does. He's studying mime. Doesn't talk much. You'd love him." Camille rolled her eyes, but followed him up 7 narrow flights of creaking stairs until they emerged on a tiled rooftop with a breathtaking view of Paris. The Seine glittering below, the Eiffel Tower glowing faintly in the distance, and chimneys lining the horizon like crooked teeth. Adrien laid out a checkered cloth. Where did he even find that? And pulled out 2 warm Chaussons poems. "For the lady," he said, handing one to her. Camille raised a brow. "What's the occasion?" He shrugged, unusually quiet for a moment. "I just thought, after everything, maybe we deserve to stop competing. Just for one night. No research, no scholarship, no performance." She took a bite of the pastry to hide her expression. "It's not poisoned, I swear." "I'm still considering it," she said, voice muffled. He laughed. She liked that sound too much. They talked for hours, about professors with bizarre grading systems, their worst presentations, childhood dreams. Camille wanted to be a violinist. Adrien a magician, obviously. And for a little while it was easy to forget everything. Until he looked at her, soft and honest, and asked, "Do you ever feel like we were meant to do this together? Not against each other?" Her heart cracked. That was the moment she realized she couldn't keep the truth hidden anymore. The next morning, Camille requested a meeting with Professor Leonard. He looked up from feeding Schrödinger and raised a brow when he saw her expression. "I'd like to withdraw my candidacy," she said simply. He blinked. "I beg your pardon. I shouldn't be considered. There's something you need to know. About the 2023 scholarship competition." And she told him everything. Every word. When she finished, the professor was quiet. Even the cat stopped licking its paw. "That's noble of you," he said at last. "But you do understand, don't you, Camille, that the error was not yours? You didn't sabotage him. The department did. I benefited from it," she said. "And I refuse to do that again." He nodded slowly. "And Adrien? Does he know?" "No. Not yet. Would you like me to tell him?" "No," she said quietly. "I will." That evening she met Adrien at the lab. He was already there, tinkering with a shared project idea they'd casually discussed over coffee, a real-time climate impact simulator combining both their models. He looked up when she entered. "Camille." His smile faltered. "You okay?" She hesitated. "Can we talk?" "Oh," he said, half laughing. "That's never a good sign. I found something. About the scholarship. The one from 2 years ago." Adrien stilled. Camille told him the truth. Every word. She watched his expression shift. Confusion, realization, anger, and finally, disappointment. Not in her, she hoped. Just in the world. "I never knew," he said. I thought I screwed up. That I wasn't good enough. You were more than good enough. And all this time. I didn't know. I swear, Adrien. I found out 2 days ago. I couldn't keep it from you." He sat down heavily, staring at the floor. Camille sat beside him, unsure what to say. Finally he turned to her, voice low. "So what now?" "I withdrew my candidacy." He looked up sharply. "You what?" "I don't want it like this. I'd rather lose fairly than win by accident." "Camille." He shook his head, standing. "No, that's not fair either. You were incredible. You are incredible. I should be the one stepping back." "We can't both sacrifice," she said, half laughing, half crying. "Why not?" "Because then no one wins." There was a long silence. Then Adrien stepped closer. "We could win together." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "The project. Our combined model. The committee loved it. What if instead of one of us getting the scholarship, we propose something new? A joint research grant. Shared scholarship. I mean, hell, it's radical. But if we prove the impact of our work together, we change the game," she finished. Adrien smiled slowly. "For once, let's rewrite the rules." Camille looked at him and saw not a rival, not even a friend, but someone who had stood beside her in the fire and would stand there again. Someone worth trusting. Someone worth building with. She reached out and took his hand. Together. Paris in spring was a living cliché. Cherry blossoms shedding petals over cobblestone streets. Students sprawled on campus lawns reading Foucault or pretending to. But for Camille and Adrien it was war season. Presentation season. They stood side by side in the grand amphitheater of the university, a place normally reserved for final defenses or symposia. Today it was their battleground. Camille smoothed her blazer for the 5th time. Adrien nudged her. "You look like you're about to face a firing squad." She glared. "We're proposing something that's never been done before. Of course I'm nervous." "And yet, you still manage to look terrifyingly composed," he whispered. "Do you practice that in the mirror?" He smirked. "Every morning. Just in case I run into you." From the front row, Professor Leonard sat with arms folded, flanked by 4 stone-faced board members of the Sorbonne Institute. Academic royalty. Bureaucratic titans. The dream crushers. Adrien took a breath and clicked the remote. The projector lit up. Title: Dual Minds, One Vision. A new model for climate impact simulation. Camille stepped forward. "We propose a dual scholarship track to support collaborative research between high-performing students. Our pilot project merges environmental modeling and real-time data analytics to create predictive simulations for urban climate adaptation. Adrien continued. Individually, our work achieved significant recognition. But together, we identified deeper connections between economic behavior and ecological sustainability. Our model doesn't just predict outcomes. It adjusts based on social variables, offering cities a proactive tool to plan climate responses. Camille glanced at the board. Still no expression. She continued. This isn't just about a scholarship. It's a proposal to rethink competition as the only metric of academic excellence. Sometimes, collaboration isn't weakness, it's innovation. Silence. A long, painful silence. Then a board member cleared her throat. Miss Durand. Mr. Moreau. Are you suggesting the scholarship rules be rewritten? Adrien nodded. Yes. Another board member leaned forward. You're asking us to throw away decades of tradition. Camille's voice didn't waver. We're asking you to look at the future. Because the problems we face now, climate change, resource scarcity, global pandemics, don't care about who came first. They demand we work together. Professor Leonard, who had been quiet until now, spoke at last. Let me remind the board that these two students have independently produced research already cited in peer-reviewed journals. Together, they may do more than succeed. They may inspire a shift in how we think about academia itself. More silence. Camille's heart thudded. Adrien reached under the podium, subtly brushed his hand against hers. It wasn't romantic, not exactly, but it grounded her. Then a voice from the back. So, do we vote? That evening, in the university garden, they sat on the marble edge of the dry fountain, exhausted. The campus was quiet, the sky slowly turning from lavender to navy. No news yet, Adrien said, checking his phone again. Do you think we blew it? I think we threw a grenade into the bureaucracy, Camille said. So either we made history, or we're about to be politely blacklisted from every future fellowship in Europe. He laughed, head tilted back. Worth it. You think so? I got to work with you, didn't I? Camille's breath caught. I meant it, he added, looking at her. Even before we proposed this. I liked working with you, fighting with you, thinking next to you. You push me in all the right ways. She looked away. Adrien. I know. It's complicated. No. It's terrifying. Why? Because I spent the last 2 years thinking I had to beat you to prove something. And now I just want you to look at me and not think about past mistakes. He reached for her hand again. This time it wasn't subtle. I've already forgotten the past, he said. But I'll never forget this. A long silence stretched between them. Then she smiled slowly. You're such a drama queen, says the girl who writes research proposals like war speeches. They both laughed, the tension dissolving. Just then her phone buzzed. She looked down. Email from the Sorbonne Scholarship Committee. Subject. Decision regarding your proposal. He stared. Adrien leaned over. Well. Camille tapped. She read. Hurried. Looked at him wide-eyed. They accepted it, she whispered. They actually accepted it. Adrien blinked. No way. They're launching a new pilot track. Just for us. Dual research scholarship. With full funding. For 2 years. For a moment they just stared at each other, dumbfounded. Then, without thinking, Adrien pulled her into a hug. Tight, fierce, elated. She clung to him, laughing into his shoulder. He pulled back just enough to look at her. Camille. Yes. I'd like to do something now, but I'm not sure if it's the right time. She raised an eyebrow. When have you ever cared about timing? He kissed her. Soft, tentative, honest. And when he pulled back, she was smiling. Took you long enough, she said. 1 week later. Camille walked into the research lab carrying 2 coffees. Adrien was already there, hunched over their simulation dashboard, muttering something about city heat maps and predictive cloud layers. You know, we just got the scholarship, she said, handing him his drink. You don't have to win it all over again. A sip. Old habits die hard. She sat beside him. You're really in this with me, aren't you? He looked at her seriously. I'm not just in this with you, Camille. I'm in this because of you. She flushed, then nudged his shoulder. Ugh, you're getting cheesy. He smirked. It's the Paris air. Very romantic. Very contagious. And so they worked. Two minds. One vision. Together. Sorbonne Research Wing 2 weeks later. The lab had become their second home. No, scratch that, first home. Camille hadn't seen her actual apartment in 3 days, and Adrien had started keeping a change of clothes in a drawer labeled disaster chic. Their project, code-named Climatica, had made waves even before its first test. A dual-model research scholarship was unheard of. News spread quickly. Now they had attention. Too much of it. Professors peeked through glass doors. Administrators requested progress updates. Journalists from Le Monde sent emails with subject lines like, "The genius duo revolutionizing climate simulation." There was even a TikTok clip of Adrien accidentally setting off the emergency sprinklers during a sensor test, now titled, "Hot Nerd Causes Rain in Lab Sweat Droplets Cloud." In short, they were no longer just brilliant students, they were under a microscope. Tuesday morning, 9:04 a.m. Camille leaned over her laptop, hair in a bun so tight it gave her tension headaches. Adrien arrived late, again, with a croissant in his mouth and a half-buttoned shirt. "You look like the love child of Einstein and a hungover poet," Camille said without looking up. He sat down. "You say the sweetest things. You were supposed to finalize the predictive behavior algorithms last night." Adrien winced. "I got distracted. I was reading that paper on intermunicipal data sharing, and then I fell into a YouTube rabbit hole about modular green roofs in Amsterdam." "Adrien." "Camille. Did you at least bring me coffee?" He grinned and slid a cup across the table. She took it without breaking eye contact. "Still mad?" "Moderately." He leaned back, sipping his own. "You're beautiful when you're only moderately mad." She choked on her drink. "You're trying to flirt your way out of incompetence. Always. And sometimes it works." She threw a pen at him. Wednesday afternoon, 3:42 p.m. Their first internal presentation to the Sorbonne Advisory Board was looming, and Climatica was still buggy. The simulation lagged when fed real-time transport data, skewing the city's predicted response to extreme heat waves. Camille was frustrated. Adrien was distracted. "Are you even listening?" she snapped after explaining the model's failure for the third time. He looked up from his notepad. "I was thinking about the feedback loop between public behavior and municipal policy enforcement. What if we introduce a stochastic variable?" "Adrien," she interrupted, voice low and cold. "I need a partner who's with me. Not just orbiting around in his own genius galaxy." That stung. She saw it in his face. But instead of snapping back, he stood quietly. "You're right," he said softly. "I've been scattered. I thought if I made the model smarter, faster, better, maybe people would stop comparing us. Stop assuming I'm the dominant half of this partnership." Camille blinked. "What?" "I read a thread online yesterday. Called you the assistant who keeps the genius organized." Her heart twisted. "Adrien." "I hated it. And I realized I've been trying to overcompensate. Make the tech so dazzling that no one questions why we're equal." She stepped closer. "You don't need to prove anything, Adrien. Not to them. Not to me." Their eyes locked. Then the lab door burst open. Professor Leonard strode in, eyes sharp. "Congratulations," he said briskly. "You've just been shortlisted for the European Young Innovators Summit in Vienna. You'll present Climatica in front of world leaders and Nobel laureates." They stared. "You have 1 month to prepare. Don't waste it." Then he left. Adrien broke the silence. "So, no pressure." Camille groaned and sat down hard. "I'm going to pass out." Right after we panic first, of course. That night, Camille was about to leave when she noticed Adrien still typing furiously in the lab. She leaned against the doorframe. Still saving the world. He looked up, tired but lit up from within. I think I fixed the lag. Want to test it with me? She walked over. They loaded the data again. This time the model didn't freeze. It responded. Adapted. Cities on the screen shifted. Traffic routes updated in real time. Energy usage dropped. Citizens adjusted behavior. It was beautiful. Camille stared, stunned. Adrien, you did it. No, he said quietly. We did it. Then he turned to her. I need to ask you something. She raised an eyebrow. What? He hesitated, then reached into his bag and pulled out a tiny Eiffel Tower keychain. Camille blinked. What is that? A bribe. For coming with me to the bookstore tomorrow. There's a cafe upstairs. We could maybe talk about stuff other than carbon emissions. Her mouth curled into a smile. Are you asking me on a date with a souvenir shop keychain? He held it up. It's extremely romantic. Limited edition. She laughed. Fine. One date. But if you bring any PowerPoint slides, I'm walking out. Saturday, 11:14 a.m. Shakespeare and Company Bookstore Cafe. Camille sipped her cappuccino and tried not to stare as Adrien explained the poetry section like he secretly lived there. He was wearing actual pressed clothes and had even shaved. So, he said, leaning on the table, are we talking about the future yet? She smiled. Ours. The projects. But now that you mention it. She pretended to sip her coffee. He nudged her foot under the table. You think we'll make it through Vienna without a meltdown? I think we'll probably fight. Definitely. Accuse each other of sabotaging everything. Obviously. She met his eyes. But I also think we'll win. He grinned. Then let's promise something. What? No matter what happens in Vienna. We keep working together. After this project. After Sorbonne. After all of it. She didn't hesitate. Deal. Vienna, European Young Innovators Summit. Schönbrunn Conference Hall, Austria. The air in the conference hall was thick with nerves and ambition. Dozens of young scholars, engineers, and dreamers were setting up their presentations. Miniature worlds of innovation, each with the same goal, to change the future. Camille adjusted her blazer for the third time. Adrien was unusually quiet, double-checking every line of code, every data flow in their final simulation. You okay? She asked. He looked up. His usual grin was absent. We're about to show our souls to the world. She touched his hand gently. We've done everything we could. No matter what happens, we did this together. He smiled faintly. Together is the only way I want to do anything anymore. The announcement echoed through the grand room. Now presenting Climatica, a real-time urban climate adaptation model by Camille Durand and Adrien Lefebvre, Sorbonne University. They stepped onto the stage side by side. The presentation. Camille opened with a story. Not a chart, not a number. When I was 14, Paris had a record heat wave. My grandmother fainted in our flat because we didn't have AC, and the hospital was overwhelmed. That was the first time I realized. Climate isn't just a global problem. It's a local one. A personal one. Adrien followed with a demo. Real-time urban data from different European cities flowed across the screen. Climatica adapted each one, showing immediate responses to floods, heat waves, and energy crises. The room was dead silent, then erupted into applause. One of the Nobel Committee judges stood. This project doesn't just predict the future, it prepares it. And it's built on something more rare than genius. It's built on collaboration. Camille looked at Adrien. Their eyes met. After the summit, that evening, they sat on a bench outside the Vienna Opera House, watching the city glow under soft lights. A light snow had begun to fall. I think we won more than just a prize today, Camille said, voice soft. Adrien turned toward her. You mean a lifetime's worth of free coffee from Professor Leonard? She rolled her eyes, laughing. No. I mean, we proved something. That being the best isn't about beating someone. It's about building something with someone. Adrien was quiet for a moment. You know, back in the first week, I used to hate that you always challenged me. She smiled. Used to. Okay, I still kind of hate it. But I also love it. I love that you never let me take the easy way. I love the way you see the world. I love. She leaned forward and kissed him before he could finish. It was gentle, honest, like a promise. When she pulled away, she whispered, I love you too. A few months later. Sorbonne University, Paris. The Climatica lab had grown. What started as a small project now had funding, a team, and recognition across Europe. Camille and Adrien became co-directors of the initiative. Together they led the research, gave lectures, and mentored new students. But they also strolled through bookstores on lazy Sundays, left notes in each other's coffee mugs, argued over baguette quality like true Parisians, and danced under streetlights when no one was watching. One afternoon, after a long meeting, Camille found a letter on her desk. It read, To the girl who made me a better researcher, a better man, and a better human being. Let's keep changing the world. One project, one laugh, one kiss at a time. Yours always, A. She wiped a tear, smiled, and turned to find him standing at the door, holding 2 cups of their favorite espresso. No more competitions, she teased. He grinned. Only one. Who gets to love the other more? Epilogue. Climatica was adopted by 5 major European cities within 2 years. Camille and Adrien were invited to speak at the United Nations Climate Summit. Their joint book, Hearts and Algorithms, became a bestseller. And in the heart of Paris, under the cherry blossoms of Jardin du Luxembourg, Adrien proposed, with the same Eiffel Tower keychain from their first date. Camille said yes.